You might be aware about FortiManager. FortiManager is something like which is used to centrally manage all the FortiGate or Fortinet devices. If you don't know about FortiManager or you want to know more, let's continue with this video. In this video, we will be talking about how to initially set up a FortiManager, what are the different basic settings that you have to perform while doing a first time setup for the FortiManager. Let's begin. I'm not going to give too much basics, and I assume that you know what is FortiManager and you are here to do a first time or the initial setup of the FortiManager. FortiManager is a centralized network and security management platform from Fortinet, and it allows administrators to manage multiple Fortinet devices such as FortiGate firewalls from a single interface, providing a single pane of glass for visibility control. So, what does it mean to simplify? Like you have multiple FortiGate firewalls in your network and you want to manage all of them centrally from one place. Okay, you don't have to log in to different FortiGate firewalls. FMG is the one central console. So this is FMG. Okay, and from this FMG you will be able to install the policies, control the devices, all of the FortiGate firewalls uh, from a single GUI or from a single place. So FMG is the centralized management console for all the FortiGate firewalls, while it can also act as a FDS server. FDS is FortiGuard distributed server, and it can provide all the licensing update, definition updates, antivirus updates, security updates. So all these can be downloaded from the FMG. So that's the basic purpose of the FMG or how FMG works. I will be showing you the initial setup of a FortiManager, what is required during the installation or during the basic setup, what are the prerequisites for this initial setup. So one of the major prerequisites is like you should have a license for the FortiManager. The initial setup will not continue if you don't have a license or if you don't have login credentials to the FortiGuard or your account. So either you can log in via your account, so it automatically fetches the license from the FortiCare or from support website of the FortiNet. Okay. If you don't have the internet connectivity from the FortiManager, or if you don't have any credentials for the account, then you may have to use an offline entitlement file. So this file can be helpful to upload and then it can continue the setup. So that's the one thing. Second is before connecting to the GUI, let's talk about the prerequisite. Okay, so what are like one of the prerequisite I mentioned was the license, the licensing you need. Okay, before that, you need an IP address that you will be configuring. You need the net mask and you need the DNS servers. These are like the main prerequisites for a initial setup of the FortiManager. So you need an IP address, you need a net mask, you need gateway, you need DNS server and the license file. So initially the FortiManager is configured with an IP address of 192.168.1.x means if you are on port 1 then it will be 1.99, 2.99, 3.99 and so on. So this X is some IP address, but it will be 192.168.99 the default IP address of the FortiManager. So you have to connect this FortiManager to a PC, access the device using a LAN cable and using this IP, and then you can change. This is if you have a physical FortiManager installing. If you have a physical hardware appliance, then this applies. But if you have a VM or virtual machine for the FortiManager, so in case of FortiManager, also like VM, you can go to the console and you can change the default IP based on your IP addressing convention scheme. What are the different form factors in which FortiManager is available? So FortiManager can be a VM appliance or a hardware. This hardware can be any model depending on your requirement. There are so many series available, 3000, 4000, 200, 300F. There are multiple hardware versions that are available from Fortinet, but depending on your requirement, you may choose one of them. And while the VM or the virtual machine based appliance can be hosted on either on Cloud platform, your own VMware ESXi, any Azure platform, any of the cloud platforms. So this VM can be deployed, this form factor can be deployed anywhere. So once you have all this IP addresses ready with you, you have a licensing file. So let's access the appliance. Okay. Once you establish a connection to FortiManager, this is the initial setup wizard that you are going to get. So what you need is, as I told you, like you need to register with the SSO. That means your credentials or the license file. So that will be your first step for the initial setup. Okay, that will be the first step. Then the second will be the host name, then your password. Upgrade the firmware if there is an upgrade available, and the backup strategy for FortiManager. You might not get this option, so depending on which version you are installing. So this setup is for 7.4. So in previous versions like 7.2, you may not have this backup strategy, the last part. So this setup is for 7.4 and 7.6 as well, I guess it's the same. Okay, so the only difference will be if there is an like some new feature, you might see some option, but this is how you set up. So you should have this first step, the licensing, mandatory. Without this, it will not proceed licensing. How to register, or like when we click on next, what happens? You get this image or this setup. So it will ask you to log into the FortiCare account, that is your support portal account under which you have the serial number binded. So you have to input the credentials and it will automatically take all the licensing from the support website if your device is having internet connectivity. And if there is no internet connectivity, then you have the option to manually upload the entitlement file. So during this, if there is an internet connectivity, it will work. Otherwise, it will give you option to upload the entitlement file. Then you have to set up the host name. So you just have to define whatever the host name is here. Once the host name is defined, you can you have to define the password for the FortiManager appliance. So first step was licensing, then host name, then password, and then the backup strategy. So under the backup strategy, you have to define where you want to take the backup of this FortiManager. Will this be an SFTP? What is the protocol? Username password for this. How frequently you want to take a backup of FMG or the FortiManager? Do you want to have any encryption? This is not mandatory to configure. So if you want, you can just disable this. So you don't need to do an backup configuration immediately. So you can skip this step as well. Mandatory is the licensing, username and hostname, of course. Okay. So once you define all these, your setup is complete. It is just the initial setup. That means you have your FortiManager configured with an IP address, hostname, DNS, and basic settings so that you can access. After that, you have to start onboarding the FortiGate firewalls. You have to start adding the firewalls to the device manager, that to further install the policies, deploy the policies, centrally manage all the policies. Let's start our lab. When you access the FortiManager for the first time, you will see this certificate warning. As you know, this certificate warning is related to the insecure or the self-signed identity certificate. If because by default initially the certificate will be an a self-signed certificate. You can change this certificate depending on your organization, or you can get a new certificate issued. Okay, so once I log into this FortiManager, this is like I'm showing you on the live device. So it asks, this product requires a valid license. You could log in into FortiCloud to activate your purchase license or use a free trial license. So either you have to do like the free trial or activate license. So once you say activate license, you have to go input your registration code or upload the license file, or you have to upload the license file. Once you log into the FortiManager, you will come to this prompt. So first one is registered and SSO with FortiGate. Specify host name, change password as I had shown. So you have to say begin, and you have to input your credentials, then the password, country, region. You have to specify or select the country, and you have to select from which reseller you got this appliance and say next. Reseller name is required. Let's say this, I just took a simulated. The product serial number has already been registered. Okay, so it is already logged. Okay, so once you input the credentials, you will see this. Once the credentials are given, it will check with the support account. If this device is registered, it will take the license and the first step will be done. Then you have to say begin. You have to define the host name. Type in the host name here, select next. You have to select the backup configuration file. If you want to perform an automatic system backup, you can disable this. ADOM revision, for now you can disable this configuration because it's just the initial. Next, and then it will say setup complete. So once the setup is complete, you will be able to see the GUI dashboard of the FortiManager. Under the FortiManager, now you have got the different tabs like dashboard, device manager, policy objects, VPN manager. So these different tabs are to manage the different configurations of the firewalls, devices, VPN configuration. So like policy packages, this is the like centralized place for all your policy package for all the firewalls. Then you have device managers. So device manager is like all your devices. Let's say if you have 50 or 100 or 200 firewalls or 40 mail, 40 web, all different kind of appliances that you have in your environment can be like added here and can all be centrally managed by this FortiManager. Hope this initial look to the FortiManager will help you to perform an initial setup, but make sure like you have internet connectivity or reachability to FortiGuard for this initial licensing so that it can communicate to the FortiGuard server. If the FortiManager is not able to reach to FortiGuard servers or support website of the Fortinet, then you will not be able to log in to the FortiGuard and you will not be able to register the device. So make sure you have the connectivity. You can check it from the CLI console, like how whether my internet is reachable or not. So once the internet is reachable, FortiManager will auto register, or you can register it to your account and then get the license, the license will be installed. And if there is no entitlement, then you have to take an offline entitlement file for this device, like for environment where there is no internet or the FortiManager is not able to connect to internet. So in such cases, you have to get the entitlement file for the FortiManager to continue working and to have the license installed. We'll continue further in our upcoming videos about how to add the devices on the FortiManager, how to manage the devices, how to install the policies. So this version is 7.4.4, so the GUI little change. In the 7.2 you will see the different GUI menu. The only thing is like they will be All in 7.4 they are all shown on one page, but in 7.2 they were like different pages where you have to click and go. But the options remains the same. And every new installation or new setup is always installed with the latest file, latest firmware version. That's why I'm showing the 7.4, whereas the current latest version is 7.6 series as well. Wait, hope you guys will watch my upcoming videos where I will be explaining all about importing configuration, fetching configuration, everything about FortiManager, FortiGates. We will be continuing this. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Hope this helps.